Good.
Okay.
So, would you like to just give me a bit of background information, Steve? Your email was very helpful actually, because yeah, there's a lot of clarity there already from what I can see.
Right. Yeah, I tend to I mean I've watched a fair number of interviews that you've done with other people,
Hmm.
um, and feel a lot of connection with a lot of the different people. I I tend to not see myself as a seeker,
Hmm.
but more an explorer.
Yes.
I like seeking, like a seeker. I kind of think it's like if you lost your keys and you're seeking your keys, then you don't see anything else. Like
Yes.
you get the one thing.
Yes.
Um, but I'm trying to really. I've spent my life kind of like trying to get a understanding of everything going on,
Yes.
not driven in any particular direction.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, I really feel like I've reached a point that it I still feel that there's something yet to be overcome, and I know that intellectually or conceptually, like that doesn't make it doesn't make sense, right? Like in the sense that there I, there because I do have that sense of they're not being of this kind of being like a fabrication,
Mm.
uh, or almost like a fiction
Mm.
kind of thing. But all the same, it's like, for example, I really like the model of the koshas
Mm.
that you explain,
Mm.
and to me, it makes sense of some of the experiences that I've had.
Good.
Um, but but that said, like, for example, um, having glimpses of things that are going to happen in the future,
Mm.
um, or picking up, the thoughts of somebody else and that sort of thing. Um, it's those things happen, so I have no question. I don't have any doubts that all those things are possible,
Yes.
but they're also completely arbitrary. And to my mind, it feels like it should just be available,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Um, but it isn't, and so that in part is why it feels like um, there's still a gap to be filled or something. And again, like even that doesn't make a whole lot of sense in terms of language, but all I can go by is what I experience and what you know, from experience, it feels like I haven't made that shift, or I don't feel complete in that shift.
Mm.
I think my uh, the train of thought, the thinking, tends to fill in and uh, kind of create that experience,
Yes.
to give me to kind of appease me, maybe.
Good. Yeah. Well, actually, I like your description, both in terms of being an explorer rather than a seeker, and also the way you describe the kind of arbitrary nature of some experiences, because that's the way it is for most of us at the moment. Because, as you say, the way it should be is for us to be able to consciously access any experience. The koshas really are like filters, and we should be able to consciously utilize those filters so we can have very specific experiences. But it does feel slightly random at the moment, and that I think there are, a few reasons for that really, but the 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 two aspects I like to help with really are firstly seeing one's true nature, and I would say for you, there is already clarity in terms of realizing your true nature. We'll just check that out in a moment. But I would say from your email, the way you describe things, the way you relate most to Kileann, um, there's definitely something where there's resonance and understanding and clarity there. But the nature of the dualistic realm is it's like an independent system. So it's that aspect which is distinct from our true nature, which seems to obscure things because it's delivering content which includes things like doubt and sort of negative perspectives on things. And so um, the good news, though, is that that isn't personal. It's something which is being delivered as invitations, and that's really the solution in understanding that. But it takes a little while because the programming that we've been subjected to since birth has been pretty relentless, really. So we assume certain modes without even realizing. So do you feel you're clear on the distinction between impersonal being and the personal mode?
I feel that I'm clear on it, at least conceptually, and I feel like I can experience it when I do it.
Yeah.
Like like I can very easily shift to and like if I do that shift, what I experience is I'm well, I lose it when I talk about it, but I become aware of like everything around me as opposed to like a specific thing.
Right.
Um, and also like the feel of my hands and my feet and
Mm.
um, yeah, it's kind of like it's everything. It becomes just a blanket like of
Yes.
sensation instead of specific things.
Great. So yeah,
Um,
that's really impersonal being, impersonal awareness. And because impersonal awareness is like a field or an ocean or a blanket, as you describe,
right,
then those forms are being known in that field rather than it being a focal point. But
but from that from that position, um, when I I I literally don't do anything.
mm,
Like it as soon as I uh, as soon as I go to do anything or whatever, then I lose that. It's um, I don't know. It's kind of like you're walking around the house in your stocking feet, and this, if you're going outside, you got to put the boots on, and then once you're outside, you're going, oh, I got the boots on again, right?
yes.
And then in the same kind of way, it's like as soon as I go to do something, then I lose that um, yeah, that expansive
Mm,
feeling.
mm, yeah. Well, that's fine, really. The realization isn't a fixed state. It's more that we see that we've remained as impersonal being, and impersonal, effortless being is always there. It's just that superimposed on that are the dualistic options, so the mental, emotional, and physical realms. So so the way you describe it is there is full clarity because what you've seen is that the awareness which is aware is a field or a blanket, as you say, and then the forms appear within that, and you can just rest when you're resting as effortless being. There's just effortless noticing of the forms appearing. So whatever's arising in the moment is just arising, and it's just known, and there isn't any commentary or judgment attached to it when we're just resting as effortless being. But then there is the option, if we wish to engage the mind. But as you say, the option to rest as effortless being and then to integrate activity, that's something which um, it does develop in time. It becomes easier because you find that you find that the programming that we've been subjected to is to put us into the personal mode, but actually impersonal being is there all along. So what you notice is that we're experiencing on a sort of sliding scale between impersonal being and the personal mode. So the way you describe just resting as impersonal being and the forms are just appearing. So in this moment, there's awareness of the conversation. There's awareness of your dog on your lap. There's awareness of um, the objects in the room, and so the forms are just appearing effortlessly, and they're particular to this moment. And when we experience in that way, then it is just effortless, and there isn't really any commentary or judgment involved. But then, if we switch attention from effortless being into the mind, then we can evaluate things or we can judge them or compare them or whatever else. But what you see is you you have the option to be able to maintain impersonal being even in the personal mode, but it tends to be something which grows and develops on its own, really, because you obviously have an affinity with animals and probably spending some time alone. And the reason for that is that resting as impersonal being is, if you're familiar with impersonal, effortless being, it's much more desirable to be there than to be in big groups of people, especially if they're in a form of mind predominance, because they're much more along the scale towards personalization. And sometimes it can be quite jarring to be in those environments. So there can be more of a tendency just to be alone or to be with animals or, um, just to regulate the degree of time we spend in those situations.
That's
So,
that's accurate.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Well, that's a really good sign because it just shows that there is that innate tendency to rest as effortless impersonal being and and regulate the degree to which we experience um, personalization. But
So, so for you, with the experience of impersonal being, my sense is that it still feels, regardless of how impersonal it might become, or the experience might feel, it's still tethered to the person. At least in my experience, meaning, um, regardless of how undirected it might become and how expansive it might feel, it's still uh, it's still centered where this body is. Um, is that your experience?
well, it can switch from that actually. That's a sort of programmed version, you could say, because when we take delivery of the body mind is like a piece of technology. It's like a virtual reality suit, which has certain capabilities. So it has sensory capabilities, emotional capabilities. Although the 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 emotional body is actually distinct. So there's the mental body, which is one sheath, and then there's the emotional body, which is another one, and then there's the physical body, which is another one. But the the when we take delivery of the physical body, it has inbuilt a sense of locality. There's the sense that we are, that we're you could say the sort of virtual reality suit of the human body is designed to create a sense of separation, a sense of time going by, a sense of vulnerability. Um, they're all written into the script, really, of the dualistic realm, and they don't actually apply. They only apply within the dualistic realm. But lots of the components of the dualistic realm, like invitations into suffering, limitation, death, sickness, accidents, they're all part of the sort of design of the dualistic realm. But the way we can become free of the sense of localization is when we see that actually you're just resting as this open space of awareness, and everything is appearing within that. So, so that field of awareness is unlimited, and therefore the experience is different. It's similar to the way Ramana Maharshi describes it. You know, somebody said to him, "Are you in the world, or is the world in you?" So the tethered version is that you're in the world, you're Steve, and you exist in this world. But the truth is, the world is in you because you're the infinite being. That's all you've ever been. And everything there is awareness of. So there's awareness of the objects in the room. There's the awareness of the texture of the fur on your lovely dog. There's awareness of the the texture of the clothing. There's awareness of the various forms. And it's only because we've been told that you're Steve and then your dog is independent and the objects in the room are independent. But when you look directly, the knowing of the texture of the fur of your dog and then the knowing of the texture of the clothing, they're known equally, actually. It's only on a conceptual level that you're saying, oh, this is me and this is my dog. When we experience it directly, it's actually the same. And that's how you kind of dissolve the sense of being tethered, because what you see is everything is arising equally and effortlessly, and it's by virtue of the infinite field of awareness you've always remained as that the forms can be experienced in a field of awareness rather than in the subject-object mode, because the subject-object mode is you're Steve, you're the body, and then there are all these other objects around you which aren't you. But when you experience as a field of awareness, you're that field, which is like a field of silence. And then every form is appearing as a wave on that ocean or field of silence and appearing as a specific form. But actually, it's all the one thing, it's all infinite, effortless, impersonal being, temporarily appearing as a form. And so anything that there is awareness of, so there can be awareness of things in close proximity. So there could be thoughts appearing, there could be emotions appearing. Um, there's awareness of the computer screen, um, awareness of the objects close by, and then there could be awareness of more distant forms. So, are there any sounds in the distance?
Yeah, there's a murmur of audio in the background that I can
Oh,
hear.
okay. So, so rather than the conditioned version, which is that you're Steve and you're sat there, and then in the distance there's this audio sound. If you just drop that mode, and what you notice is you're the field of awareness, and there is awareness of the various forms. So there's awareness of the body sitting on the seat, there's awareness of the headphones on the head, there's impersonal, effortless awareness of the dog on the body, there's awareness of the audio in the distance. And it's by virtue of the fact that you are this infinite open space of awareness within which all those forms appear that they're known. And they're all known equally, actually. So the sound of the two voices, or um, sounds in the room, the sound of the audio, or whatever else is appearing, they're all known and experienced equally. They're all registered in impersonal awareness. So it's in that the simplicity of unity, which is ever present, that the sense of being tethered dissolves because you never were tethered. It's just that the body mind is a piece of technology. You took delivery of it at birth. Inbuilt, it has, certain capabilities. So it has hearing, touch, sight, taste, smell. It has a sense of localization. It has a feeling of the weight of the body, of gravity. Um, there are lots of operations which are continuing effortlessly, like the eyes are blinking, there's breathing happening, regulation of the temperature, there's the digestive system, the vascular system, all the different systems are all operating effortlessly and impersonally. And then there's a focal point, but it's seeing that everything is appearing within this open space, and you are that open space. So the objects in the room, they are arising within the awareness you've always been. And so so you could say the condition mode, so the subject object mode is where we believe we're tethered, we're the human being, here we are sat on the seat, and then around us there are these objects which don't really have much to do with us. And then you can experience self-realization, which is where, well, it's just really seeing that there's been a case of mistaken identity, that the awareness and the beingness, which appeared to be the awareness and beingness of Steve, never were, that they've remained as impersonal being. So the sense of existence, which is fully known in this moment, which you were told was the existence of Steve, that very tangible sense of existence all along has remained as the existence of the infinite being. And that changes the nature of things. And so when we experience unity, we're remaining as this field. We know that we're just this open space of awareness. We know that there are changing forms appearing within that, but you remain as the non-changing field of awareness within which all those forms appear. And the forms are different in every moment. So in this moment, there are certain forms, certain images on the screen, certain images and perceptions, but they're all appearing within this singular field of consciousness.
Something that kind of throws me when you mention about um, like over the course of a person's life and or like referencing um, when you were like 2 years old and that sort of thing. Um, at times I have the glimpse that that's kind of like um, a narrative or a fiction too, in the sense that I really don't, whatever I am or whatever is me,
Mm.
um, it's not the same as the history. Um, so I kind of, well, there was a time when I was a kid. I, I I used to think of the idea of like when everybody goes to bed at night, when they wake up the next morning, they actually wake up as somebody else,
Mm.
and and but they wouldn't know
Mm.
because when they wake up, they're waking up with the memories that are with that body and in the place where that body is, and so every day they're waking up as somebody different, but they only ever know that they're the person that they are that moment.
Yeah.
And it almost feels like that, in that um, that the mind definitely developed over the course of a life and had experiences over the course of a life and that sort of thing. Um, but whatever I am could literally just be here this moment, like
Yes.
looking through all of that.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
does that make sense?
It does actually. Yes. Well, the the truth is that if we just strip everything back, we just see that there is, well, these are only pointers really, but the words John Wheeler uses, presence, awareness, existence, allow us to see what's permanent. So there is really only this timeless moment. Like whenever we look, all we can ever find is presence. It's just that we're right here and now. The idea of time passing or changes exists in the mental realm. And and the awareness aspect is very simple, which is just that there is this open space of awareness, and then the forms particular to any moment are just arising. So in this moment, there's awareness of stroking the dog, there's awareness of the objects in the room. Those forms change. And the third aspect, which is a sense of existence, is quite an easy one to see, really, which is that while we've been told all along that we are existing and that we're existing as a human being, so most people, when they answer the question, if you say, do you exist? They would agree. They would say yes, because the sense of existence is very tangible. But actually, the sense of existence is the existence of the infinite being, which is impersonal and it's omnipotent and it's omnipresent. So, so when you're resting as impersonal being, everything is arising within you. So you see that that's been the sense of existence is part of the mistaken identity because it's just that the symbol of the body mind, which is a symbol of limitation and separation, is only like a virtual reality option. And we're just having that experience due to the nature of the limitations of the human body. But but you see that actually you're just resting as impersonal being. And so to to wake up and find oneself in the one body, or wake up, find oneself in a different body, or wake up and be aware that you're inhabiting every body. They're all different options which are available, really. It's just that the nature of the experience currently is that it's an experience of limitation. So there appear to be certain limitations, but quite a lot of them um, you begin to realize have been imposed on us. So we didn't opt for them. It's just that, if, for instance, if you take the simplicity of beingness and awareness at an early age, there is just effortless awareness of forms appearing. So there's effortless awareness of a body mind, effortless awareness of the objects in a room and of certain textures and things. Um, and the installation of a sense of personalization is something which our parents mainly and close family members achieve. And it's through invitation, really, where they start referring to the body mind as though it is who you truly are. But I remember distinctly just knowing myself to be this infinite field, and there were experiences of impersonal bliss as well. So that was really the starting point. And then you see that the personal mode is being constructed through the concepts, through the invitations. And at a certain point, we kind of concede to it. Because we're being bombarded with it from every angle. So we sometimes concede to personalization, time, space, and those kind of limitations, but then gradually come back um, to review that experience.
I The thought came to me one morning. It was kind of like being in a in a submarine, Um, and I pictured a submarine on the edge of a reef on the ocean floor. And if you look at one porthole, it was really dark, and there was maybe like an octopus you could barely see. But if you look at the porthole on the other side, it's really bright and
Mm.
tropical fish. And if you look through the periscope, you're seeing the seagulls and a distant
Yes.
island.
Yes.
And it's kind of like we're all like portholes.
Mm.
Right, for the
Uh,
is when you're looking, through when I'm looking through Steve at this moment, then this is that perspective is
yes.
all that I experience.
Yes.
um but it's but everybody is like is also a porthole like that, you could be looking through.
Yeah, and there are filters which apply too, because depending on the conditioning, the tendencies, um, the, those filters or the portals, they can either be obscure or they can be very clear. But my feeling is that we're essentially playing a game where we begin in extreme limitation, and then we develop the ability to actually open things up to the point of conscious awareness where we can experience things at will. So, limitations of things like time, space, the limitations of the physical body, the limitations of the emotional body or mental body, they begin to dissolve, and we realize they're all options which we can exercise. But it's just that the dualistic realm at the moment is designed to keep us in limitation. So we tend to, most of the conditioning is in terms of the physical realm. So lots of people opt for um, the physical body to be the predominant one. But realization is making effortless being or the body of wisdom the predominant experience. And then we can regulate the nature of the experiences in the mental and emotional and physical realms.
It strikes me, or it struck me recently, um, how useful metaphors about watching movies are.
Mm.
um, so there's, it's a very it's a common experience to be in the theater and completely forget that you
Yeah,
are who you are and where you are.
yeah,
You're so involved in the story on the
yes,
screen.
yeah,
Um, and it strikes me that it may be no it may not be coincidence that that's such a useful metaphor, that even the fact that we've just started creating and watching movies over the last 100 years
mm,
might itself be a symptom of us waking up
yes, yes,
as a group.
yeah, yeah. That's true. The one aspect I feel is important is in the distinction between the koshas which are aligned with our infinite nature, so the body of bliss and the body of wisdom, and the remaining three which are dualistic, so the mental, emotional, and physical, because those three are subject to a sort of energetic system. And it's understanding the dualistic realm which can actually free things up for us, because the dualistic realm is designed to keep us in personalization, and it wants us to be involved in limitation. So it's delivering invitations into various emotional experiences. But the more familiar we become with effortless being, you realize that the dualistic realm becomes optional, because we can remain as effortless impersonal being, and when we realize we can exercise that option, then the limiting aspects of personalization, so for instance mental and emotional turmoil, we realize that we don't necessarily need to activate those, because we can remain as impersonal being, because all of the activity which results in various forms of trauma are all due to personalization. But the more familiar we become with impersonal being, we realize that the personal mode is an option. It isn't compulsory.
And how extensive is that? And the reason why I ask this is when I hear about the end of suffering, when people talk about the end of suffering that comes with awakening,
Mm.
um, the suffering, the word suffering used in that context, to me seems very like a very Buddhist uh, concept of suffering. It like meaning, we are subject to desires that'll never be fulfilled, kind of thing.
Mm.
But there are people that experience a very non-Buddhist type of suffering, like have injuries or traumas and that sort of thing, um, chronic pain.
Mm.
Um, for somebody that's experiencing it, and this isn't me at all. I'm not experiencing any of those things, but if somebody is experiencing like chronic pain, um, are they actually able to be relieved of that or step back from that with awakening in the same way the word uh, alleviation of suffering kind of how that kind of works for other people?
Yes, well, lots of aspects of pain, whether it's physical or psychological, um, the pain is due largely to personalization because if we take this world and we take the mainstream version of it, it's portrayed as though we really are these human beings in time and space, that we're subject to change, we're subject to ill health, all the things we're familiar with in the dualistic realm. Um, but the intensity of the suffering is dependent on identification with physicality. So it's the idea that the physical body is primary, and health means health of the physical body. But the more familiar we become with effortless being and we align with impersonal being, you realize that the mental, emotional, and physical realms are peripheral, that we're not actually there. There are options we can exercise. But I saw this really clearly as a child because I used to have very prolonged and deep experiences of bliss. And experiencing the body of bliss is impersonal. So we can't experience the body of bliss as an individual. It's by nature an impersonal field, which is self-knowing. So when we withdraw the focus from the physical, from the emotional, from the mental, and from the body of wisdom, what remains is this infinite impersonal field of bliss, which is self-knowing. And so when it's like that, then you see the other aspects are peripheral. But because all the conditioning in the world is to do with identification with the physical body, and it's because it's an energy system, it's always trying to invite us into personalization and invite us into identification with the body, identification with the pain, identification with the experiences. But really, it's on in one way, it's all based on consent because we're the infinite being, and if something is put before us and we don't question it, then we're sort of consenting to it. So, for instance, somebody could say, all suffering is due to the status of the physical body. Well, if we adopt that as an idea, then we're directing our potential through the physical body as though it is the primary means of experience. But in Indian philosophy, they speak of the subtle senses and the gross senses. So what you realize is there are these different layers. So there's the physical body, the physical environment, and then there are the physical senses. So the eyes, ears, nose, mouth, whatever, whatever the sensory organ is, it's available on the physical level to do with the physical environment. But then there is also um, sensory functioning on a more subtle level. So we use that in the dream state of consciousness or in visualization or imagination. And so those sensory experiences are more subtle, they're still operating, but to have those experiences, we can't utilize the physical senses. So in the dream, you can't use the physical senses in the dream state. You can only use the physical senses in the physical realm. And so as there's more consciousness and more familiarity with the koshas, and I like the model of the koshas because it does open up the realization that there are lots of options which are actually which are available to us, and they're options we can exercise, but we don't necessarily need to just remain within the condition mode, because the condition mode, which is the idea that you are the mind, you are the physical body, you are the emotions. You're a human body, you're existing in time. There's a certain lifespan, and you're living in this environment, which is quite dangerous. And if we adopt all of those ideas, it can create quite extreme experiences of limitation. But from impersonal being or from the body of bliss, then those experiences are peripheral and we can withdraw attention from them, which withdraws our energy, so we can have the most amazing experiences.
My sense is that what what we tend, or what I tend to, what people talk about experiencing day to day, um, my sense is it's much closer to being dreamlike than it is to being machine-like.
Mm.
Uh, that when we're having a dream, we're not questioning things. Like, it's only after we wake up we say, "Oh, that was ridiculous," or "that doesn't make sense," or
Yes.
that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But when we're in a dream, it all seems very natural. It all
Yes.
seems to make perfect sense.
Yeah.
And my sense is that this is very much like that.
Yes.
That the continuity, the sense that this makes is relative. That
Yes.
it's really just of the moment,
Yeah.
um, and that much more is possible.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly. Yes. Well, the structure of the dualistic realm. I have a friend. He's an American physicist, and he says that the physical realm blinks in and out. I think he said something like 35,000 times a second. So it's like a binary system. So it's both on and off 35,000 times in a second. So it appears to be continuous, but really it's only the sort of technology which is giving rise to that possibility. But it's the slight amendments which are taking place, which are imperceptible, which make it seem as though there's change and as though things are happening. But the more we align with impersonal being, the more the structures of the dualistic realm become exposed. We're able to see them in a way where we realize their energetic implications. They're designed to keep us in personalization, in limitation. Um, but actually, our objective is to open everything up so that we can experience consciously in any of the realms. So we can experience infinite bliss. We can experience all forms arising equally and effortlessly. We can enjoy the whole range of the mental realm, because the the koshas actually have frequency levels which relate to the colors of the rainbow, and they also relate to the chakras, the bodily chakras. So the lowest one is red, and the highest one is violet. And depending on the frequency of experience, we can experience in each of those realms. Um, so there are certain activities which keep us down the lower levels, and then other ones which enable us to experience in more subtle ways. But it's a very comprehensive system with many options. Um, but the way they're put together in the sort of mainstream way is based on deception, really. Because if you take the knowing of the different realms, so if let's take the physical realm first. So we could say there's effortless impersonal awareness of the body, of the physical body. So there's effortless impersonal awareness of the clothes on the body, awareness of the dog, awareness of the headphones, um, and that's on the physical level. So, so that's being known effortlessly. Really, there isn't anything we need to do to make that happen. It's just there is just effortless awareness of the body. And then, if we take the etheric body, which is the emotional body, we could say there is effortless impersonal awareness of emotion. Um, Are there any emotions appearing at the moment, Steve?
Just a flash of pleasure when you asked.
Great, fantastic. So there's effortless impersonal awareness of some pleasure. That's yeah, that's great. And then there could be effortless impersonal awareness of some thoughts appearing. And if we take those three realms, so the physical realm, the emotional realm, and the mental realm, they're actually being experienced distinctly and they're not dependent on each other in any way. So you can choose just to focus on awareness of thoughts appearing, or there can be focusing on awareness of emotions arising, or there can be focusing on awareness of the physical body. But so when we're experiencing in the unity of um, absolute, impersonal, effortless awareness, then there is just impersonal, effortless awareness of those forms. And we can switch. So there's effortless awareness of the body, effortless awareness of the thoughts, effortless awareness of the emotions. Um, but the sense of personalization is added mainly through language, and it's through using personalized language. So using words like I, me, or mine. So we have really only four ingredients. So there's awareness, impersonal awareness of the physical body, impersonal awareness of the thoughts arising, impersonal awareness of some emotions appearing, and then the option to utilize personalized language where the sentences contain words like I, me, or mine. And if you put those four ingredients together, it gives the illusion that there is actually a separate person called Steve who is existing in time and space. But when you just break it down to the simplest awareness, you just see that there's effortless impersonal awareness of each of those modes, which are independent. But we're sort of hoodwinked into personalization because we don't break down those structures to see what's actually at the core of human experience. But the benefit of doing that actually is that energetically we become free and we actually become aligned with impersonal being rather than aligned with the mental, emotional, or physical realms. And then the intelligence of one's infinite nature will guide you um, to be able to experience in much deeper and more magical ways. Whereas if it's the mind, the dualistic realm guiding us, it's guiding us into energetic compromise of one form or another, usually, either mental or emotional or physical.
My sense when you speak of the dualistic realm as being this energetic system, and I've heard you refer to as well the demiurge,
Yes.
a sort of thing. My sense is it's close. It's more like a monkey trap, where they would take a gourd and put a hole in it and put a nut inside the gourd,
Yes.
and a monkey can put the hand in, but if it's
Yes.
grasping the nut, it can't get it out. But
Exactly. Yeah.
all it has to do is let go of the nut, and
Yes.
it's really uh, it's really the monkey is trapping itself,
Yes.
and not so much that the trap is actually doing anything.
Exactly.
Um, and that's kind of what this feels like. It feels like it's kind of like it's kind of like a buffet, where all the food looks good, and
Yes.
you, despite despite your best intentions, you end up trying everything. um, and that's not the buffet's fault, right?
No. That's a great analogy, actually, because that's the nature of the dualistic realm, really, because we don't even enter into the dualistic realm. It's just that it's available as an experiential option, which we can exercise on our own terms, really. But if we take the the way we can experience awareness. So we can experience awareness either as a field or an ocean of awareness, and we can experience the localized focal point version. So you could say that the ocean of awareness is really just this open space. It's like an open space of silence. It's like a silent ocean, and then a silent formless ocean. And then upon that silent formless ocean appear waves of form. So there's the wave of the form of the body mind, the wave of the form of the objects, of the words, of the forms of the emotions or of the thoughts. And so we can experience in that way where it is just an infinite ocean. We know it's infinite because everything is appearing within that. And so whether it's the sun, the moon, the stars, they're all appearing within that infinite ocean. They're like waves of form on that infinite formless ocean. And then the focal point version is where the infinite being or infinite awareness is looking through the eyes of the body mind. And it has access to the operating system of the body. So it can move the hands, it can change the focus from hearing to taste or to any of the other sensory experiences or to engage the mind. And when we see, though, that it is the infinite impersonal awareness is looking through the eyes, then it becomes very freeing because you see that you never actually became Steve. That the construct of those elements, the mind, the emotions, the physical body, um, they they're giving the impression of personalization, but actually the simplicity is you're just resting as the infinite impersonal being. And that's really the freedom, and it's knowing we can regulate the nature of experience in a conscious way where we can experience the dualistic realm on our terms and regulate the energetic investment in that, and also regulate the degree to which we feel attached to it or bound by it, because we're never bound. Attachment is illusory, really, because we're the infinite field within which everything is appearing. Attachment requires firstly a sense of localization and then a form to be attached to. But we're resting as the infinite ocean within which both those forms appear. So really, there is no attachment. There's just the knowing independently of the forms. But the more we look at the construct and the more we see that the dualistic realm as an energetic construct, it becomes much easier to be able to navigate it in a conscious way. The key element of the dualistic realm is personalization. So it loves us to be personalized because with the sense of I, me, or mine, then the mental, emotional, and physical possibilities become very energetically charged. But when we're just resting as impersonal being, then it isn't necessary um, to charge the mind, the emotions, or the physical realm. We can just remain as impersonal being, and then we can regulate the investment on our own terms. So the aspects which are really nice. So there is, you could say, there's effortless impersonal awareness of the arm around the dog, which is the impersonal version, and then there is also the level of personal love, or you could say it's universal love, which is manifesting as the love that Steve has for his dog. Now, you wouldn't want to give that up because it's a very rich, enriching experience, but it's seeing that those options are available and it's exercising them effectively, really, because where there's enrichment, then the personalization and the dualistic realm can be very enriching. But where there's scope for suffering, then it's better to learn to revert to impersonal being because we can, like you could say the clearest form in terms of impersonal being is seeing that you and everyone else and everything else remains as the infinite impersonal being, which is indestructible, it's timeless, it's formless, it's never changing. And so nothing ever is actually affected because what we're experiencing in the physical realm is just, it's just a frequency which is blinking in and out 35,000 times a second, which gives the illusion that there are these objects here, when really it's just like a program which is on and off. So half the time it isn't there at all.
When you speak this way, it reminds me of I resonate when you speak much deeper than when I've listened to John Wheeler. John Wheeler is very direct, um, and and um, and it's not, there's no disagreement with anything that he says or anything like that. But my sense is once you've once you've once you've hit that, once you realize that, the question still remains, what's then? For me,
Yes,
it's what's
exactly.
then, right?
Yes.
And and for that, it's very easy for the mind to grab that what then, I think, and then say, oh well, if I'm thinking what then I'm not there yet. Right?
Yes.
But but I mean, the the alternative is that it's literally you experience nothing, and that's no fun,
No,
right?
no.
um, and so for me anyway, like, I enjoy experiencing and exploring this variety of experience, and
Yes.
um, but it's not a question of, and I see that it's not a question of this or that. It's all
Yes.
self-experiencing self.
Yes. Yes,
Um,
definitely. Well, if you take John, for instance, John's totally clear in terms of the absolute. So it's the absolute nature of the self. But with lots of non-dual teachings, they only focus on the absolute. They focus on the absolute truth, but it doesn't really give any solution to things like suffering, because the solution to suffering actually exists in the understanding of the way the dualistic realm works. And if we're only focusing on the absolute, then we won't ever discover how to become free of suffering. But from the foundation of impersonal being, we can begin to see that the distinction between impersonal being and the personal mode is optional. So the degree to which we invest in the personal realm is something which we can regulate. And knowing the way the structures work, for instance, in the delivery of the thoughts and the emotions and invitations from the dualistic central server, the demiurge, um, we can begin to see what's going on. But if we're only focusing on the absolute, sometimes non-dual teachers say, well, it's just appearing. But but that feels very disempowering, because it's the idea that there's nothing we can do about it. But actually, it's only ever our own energy which is fueling the dualistic realm anyway. In the same way as the monkey holding on, not letting go, is keeping us engaged in the dualistic realm. When you could say, well, that's just what's happening. But there is a solution which is quite easy, and there's a solution which exists in the dualistic realm, and that solution can result in the end of suffering, and it can result in the neutralization of the adverse aspects of the dualistic realm, and it can bring freedom so that we can experience consciously through all the realms.
Hmm.
And it's good to play with too, isn't it? I think with each of us, you realize that there are no upper limits to the integration of impersonal being into the personal realm, because we can regulate the nature of the experience. And you find the more, for instance, the more we withdraw attention from the dualistic realm, the dualistic realm is inviting us into a feeling of contraction, whereas the infinite being is inviting us into expansion and infinite possibilities. And the dualistic realm is like the monkey trap, because it's keeping us engaged energetically. And while we're energetically engaged in the dualistic realm, we're in the monkey trap. But when we realize that we can just remain aligned with impersonal being, then the nature of impersonal being, the body of wisdom, effortless being, is that there are ascending possibilities. So we can go from neutrality, which is the lowest, through various experiences like inspiration, um, love, compassion, expansion, creativity, euphoria, and all those possibilities are available, because the nature of unity consciousness, the nature of our infinite nature, is a combination of infinite love with infinite intelligence. So all the possibilities are available there. Whereas the dualistic realm, because it's devoid of love, then the only option there really is to invest our energy to have the dualistic experience. And when you realize that, you realize it's not a great investment really, because the dualistic realm is very binding and limiting. It's like the monkey having his hand in the trap and saying, "Oh, this is really nice. I'm enjoying this."
What that came to mind when you were using the words expansion and contraction, um, it the thought arose. There's people that talk about writing poetry,
Mm.
and that by accepting certain restrictions or limitations, like writing in, you know, particular stanzas or rhythms or whatever, that it actually fuels the creativity. Whereas if it was completely open ended
Mm.
with no restrictions, then we tend to not be as it doesn't we don't
Yes.
step forward to be as creative.
Yes.
Um, so my sense is there's like a sweet spot between the restriction the restriction and the expansion, um,
Yes.
where there's the max you get the maximum
Maximum
uh,
enrichment.
yeah, maximum enrichment.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it actually, because if you take either poetry or music or art, the most successful ones, they are kind of regulated. So with music, music utilizes a particular key, and actually art does as well. Painting, all the great painters, they're not utilizing the whole range. They're not utilizing the whole range between black and white. The paintings exist in a key so that so that there's the option for harmony. Because if you're utilizing the whole range, then there isn't harmony. And the same with music. Um, so it's yeah, that's a really nice way. But the the benefit of that also is that the scope is infinite, really, because like even with music, there are only a certain number of notes, and in art there are only a certain number of colors. But the options available are infinite because there are so many variations. The picture just seems to have frozen for a moment. Steve, can you hear okay?
So the potential that yeah, I can. Yeah. The video is frozen, but I can hear you fine.
Good.
Oh, you're back.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're back too.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you. I don't want to keep you.
Well, it's really interesting with you, Steve, because are you still there?
I am now. I was thinking that's unfortunate timing. I was just saying I don't want to keep you and opposite.
Well, it's great speaking with you because what's clear is there is already realization because the distinction between impersonal being and the personal mode is already available. And what you're describing actually in the way there's this sort of selection process available in the way we experience it is a perfect way of, if we describe, say, the way music, um, various pieces of music exist in a certain key and paintings exist in a certain key. And with poetry, there are certain limitations which apply. And the same is also true of the sliding scale between impersonal being and the personal mode, because there is, as you describe, there's a point where the experience can be enriched and optimized. So it isn't there that there's a sort of black and white version. It isn't that there's realization or not realization or black and white. It's that the potential existing there between impersonal being and the personal mode is on a sliding scale, and we can key the experience really depending on where we wish to kind of pitch the experience. So, for instance, the a certain degree of dualistic experience, where there's the possibility of experiencing, say, infinite love for your dog. That's a great combination because there's the relative aspect, because there has to be the distinction between Steve and his dog. So there has to be that degree of relativity and duality, but actually within that can be infinite love expressed in duality. And that's an example of the way we can select experiences in the most enriching way. And I love your background. It's a fascinating backdrop you have there.
Yeah, this is my work room. This is where I work from. So
Fantastic.
yeah.
It's a great example, really, of all of the different forms, all the textures, and all the possibilities, all the interests.
Mm, yeah, I often feel like I'm an archaeologist explore cataloging
Yes,
the
yes.
earth.
Yeah, it is. It just has, well, it has a real feeling of enrichment,
Mm,
just every and of infinite possibilities.
mhm,
There doesn't, and as it is with realization, there doesn't seem to be anything missing either. Everything seems to be present.
yeah.
It's great actually with you also with the nature of realization and also the ability to function from impersonal being is very tangible speaking with you because um, there are one or two little clues. The one is that there is the ability. Well, immediately when we were speaking, there was just a sort of awareness of sensitivity, and also um, there is, as we've spoken more, the arising of bliss and euphoria and happiness is very close to the surface for you. And also, having your dog on your lap, there's obviously a deep love there too. And so, and also your energy is a very kind of boyish energy. And your the environment is, and really that's to me, realization isn't about being more sophisticated in a kind of adult-like way. It's being more childlike in many ways. It's just the freedom to play.
Mm.
And you seem to be having a good time.
Well, this has been a great pleasure. Thank
Yeah,
you.
me too, Steve. It's been so nice. Yeah. Spending time with both of you.